Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves a great day. Justin Timberlake, Chris Stapleton doing Say Something. I don't normally do this. Man, I linked the video in the bottom, hopefully after you finish my video. Such an epic song. The video is really, really cool. The way the song just builds and builds and builds. For all of you that know the song already, you probably know that about it. This is the first time I heard it. It was just such a great experience with the song, and I think Justin Timberlake's pretty talented in general. I've seen him with Jimmy Fallon, right? I think it's probably where I'm basing some of that from. But anyway, how can we speed things up? Why does the concept of speeding up sometimes, why is that so challenging? Why can't I have it immediately? Especially when it comes to situations in our life where some changes are kind of needed, right? We're not totally where we need to be. Maybe if it's an issue with an ex, for example, an ex relationship, right? We've still got some of those cases where we are fighting, where it's quick to go to emotion, where we're quick to get fired up, where we're still angry and resentful about things, where we still expect them to apologize for something, and even though we're broken up now. So one thing I would just suggest is get over the apology thing when you're broken up. They might, but kind of at that point, it's like, wow, you sort of broke up, the whole need for that is gone, even though we are people and we try to interact, but it is frustrating, right? You've got examples too, where you've got trying to get a job. Maybe there's interviews you got to go through. Maybe there's different steps that you need to go through. Maybe education. Maybe there's a class you got to finish to get some sort of certification, right? Maybe there's some sort of thing you've got to accomplish in order to be able to do that. In the case of getting a home, it can be a nightmare just going through all the paperwork. Maybe it's trying to save up some money first because you got to have enough for down payment, right? A lot of times the things we're trying to manifest in life, relationships, without a doubt, being in the slightly more complex side because it's people, right? These things oftentimes require us to move in steps, to move through phases, to move through an evolution, a progression. That works too, right? So money, career-wise, right? You're going from, making $10 an hour to $12 an hour to $15 an hour to $18 an hour to $21 an hour to $25, right? Like that's the progression that you generally go through. Generally speaking, you don't just go from $10 an hour to $100 an hour. Now you can. There are exceptions to the rule, but generally speaking, those are teeny tiny percentages. And if you're going to play the numbers, I don't recommend going that path. It could happen to you. So always be diligent and keep moving forward. But again, steps and stages, generally how it works for the majority of us, myself included. So career, for example, for me, like a lot has transpired over the past 2 years. Well, really 3-4 years when I look at it. And just the way things have played out. And I don't want to get into specifics terribly so, because there's people that I work with that occasionally listen, right? So, getting into that aspect of it, it's been evolution, growths. And I want to say that, through all the things that I've been working on, like my last company I was at, I was dealing with systems where companies were paying, in excess of $1 million a year for a service contract with us. And there was like 8 guys on my team. So they were getting one of us, right? For $1 million a year amongst many companies. So pretty stressful, right? And certainly had my my nights where I was nightmares and whatnot. And then here I am back now working on systems that $3 billion a year travel through. So yeah, a little bit of a stress factor as you kind of increment through. Now that's from the standard normal work front. Now I'll say this in the last year, and it's not boasting or bragging, it's been a year of expansion for me, without a doubt, right? Last year, YouTube, huge. I went from basically 100 subscribers to around March to, I want to say by the end of February, I crossed 1,000, which was a huge milestone for me. And that was just big, right? That's just part of the growth, part of the evolution, and part of what we're, trying to do. By the way, if you haven't subscribed, please do so. Seems like an opportune time to bring that up. Obviously, if you like my stuff and, thumbs up and all that junk, that is always good. If you ever want to try to help out, the thumbs up, the comments, liking, subscribing, all that junk works. Mainly watching. That's a really, really big one. So the same kind of concepts work with relationships. You've got these steps and stages. You can't just go from, 0 to 60 instantly. And in the case of exes, a lot of times we have things that we still need to get over, things we need to forgive. And we've talked about forgiveness a lot on my show, so there's a little bit of assumption that you've watched other shows of mine. I'm sorry if you haven't. But there's things that we're probably working on. Self-love's the thing that's frequently talked about, right? Making sure you truly, one, love yourself. So that not just means that you say, I love you, and you look in the mirror, but it also means that what you're hoping to attract in your life, what you're trying to manifest, is actually something that's totally good. Like, I'm not settling. I'm not, well, he doesn't really have time for me, but I love him, right? It's more of a, yeah, he has time. We have time. We spend time together. We have a relationship. Like, it's really good. So, looking at it from that kind of healthy aspect. But of course, there's that evolution to get there. There's the growth maybe on their side for that matter. So a lot of us are frequently like, why can't this happen right now? First off, the things that you've really got to look at is how much change can I manage at one time, right? Because a lot of us, if something kind of, we wake up and things are slightly disheveled, or something got moved on the counter, or the paper didn't show up right when I go down to the doorstep, like that can start some people's day off in a horrific way. Like the paper not showing up at 6 a.m. That's there. That's what I do in the morning. 6 to 6:15, I read the paper and drink a cup of coffee. My coffee's ready. Where's my paper? And it messes your whole day up, right? Someone takes your parking place that you park at every day. You get to work super early. You always take that parking place. Someone grabbed that parking place. You're like, what the frick? Sometimes things, hey, you spill that coffee on the way. I've done all these, I'm just like random things. I'm like, that'll ruin a morning, right? Things that'll alter your path can have lessons in them and can at the same time mess up our entire day. Some of us don't handle change very well. And I think one of the things that can be difficult for some people on the law of attraction path, or people that are trying to manifest someone back into their life and all these things, many people, and I don't want to throw percentages out, 50 plus, easy, right? Easy 50 plus % of people, I truly think, want to be able to manifest things back without doing anything different within themselves. I don't want to change a darn thing, but I want them to come back. Now, that can happen, definitely. Depends on beliefs. There's a lot of things, and that's sort of my limiting belief. I'll say that. But there is this other side of me that has noticed in a lot of cases, there seems to be an intelligence to universe and to our higher selves and how we navigate it. There seems to be lessons in life. I've just seen it. I've seen it with everybody. It shows in different ways. It manifests in different ways. And certainly law of attraction plays a part, because what we think, what we say, what we do, what we're believing is kind of how these things manifest themselves. But when we overcome them, when we learn from them, when we travel past them, we're evolved forever. We're changed forever. It becomes an extremely powerful, life-changing moment for us. And that evolution, I believe, again, it could be limiting thoughts on my part. I'm just saying this is what I've noticed. I understand that it's that standard thing where I'm going to bring up The Matrix again. One, because it's a pretty popular movie. It's older, and a lot of people have seen it. And there was the scene where he meets the, whatever she is, the lady that knows the future or whatever. I forget what her little fancy name was in the movie. And there was the scene where the vase breaks, right? And she's like, and don't worry about the vase. And he's like, well, in his typical Neo kind of way. It's fantastic acting in that movie. Just incredible. Kidding, of course. But he turns, bam, knocks over the vase. And she's like, there you go. And he's like, oh, I'm sorry. And she's like, I already said. And then she says the part that'll trip you out is, would you still have done it had I said something earlier? Or was it going to happen already? And that's where I think a lot of us get hung up too. And I've spent eons on this. And when it pops into your head and then immediately happens, I don't believe it was you that did it. I believe that's picking up on something that's going to happen. Thinking, manifesting doesn't usually happen that quickly. So when you're popping into your head and then it's immediately happening, no, that's connection. That's actually super cool. That's a sign of awakening, by the way. So if that happens to you on any sort of regularity or is starting to happen more frequently, sweet. But that does not mean you're manifesting it because of that. It means you're picking up on it. So when we think about things over and over repetitively, and then tomorrow, generally speaking, or an hour or two from now, sometimes many minutes away from now, you'll experience it. It's not usually instant. The instant ones That's the stuff that's very, very, very much us being connected to reality, what's happening around us. That person that just texted us that we just like, I know so-and-so texting me, you know, like whatever the case is. Now, again, why can't things happen faster? A lot of times there's that growth factor. And how quickly can you grow? In the case of my career, seriously, I have nightmares often where I have a hard time sleeping. Last night was probably one of the best nights of sleep I've had in a long time. Granted, I was waking up on a Saturday, but I've got, you know, a lot of things that are brewing and important. And it's cool. And I love the work. Don't get me wrong. It's not like, I hate my, it's not. It's just, it's like, wow, there's a lot on the line. Matters, you know? I'm not building rocket ships, thank God. There's not people's lives possibly at stake here. But yeah, no, pretty crazy how it works out. And the same with YouTube, right? As things expand in YouTube, it's one thing just to make a video every day. That's great. But as you expand, as your channel grows, well, you start to get more comments, more emails, more, you know, a lot of things kind of grow with it. And sometimes that can be a little like, wow, you know? And so, again, some of you that email me, you might notice it takes me a little while to get back sometimes because it's overwhelming. There's a lot. And so I work through them. I have like my things, you know, that I work on, but it's just part of the growth factor. How quickly do you want to grow, Dan? If I would have went from 100 subs to 50,000 subs, you know, overnight, I would not have been ready for it. I would not have been ready for it. The progression is saving me because it would have been so much energy, so much onslaught, so much comments, so much, right? And it's the same kind of thing that we're hoping for when we're trying to manifest with our specific person. There's a lot of things that we need to look at and grow past and learn from and forgive and say goodbye to. How quickly can we get there? How quickly do you want to work on it? Again, I know a large portion of the audience doesn't really want to do a bunch of stuff like that, and that's okay. But unfortunately, I do, regardless if we think the vase would have broken without me saying anything, or the vase was going to break regardless of me saying anything, and I just happened to be aware of the fact that the vase was breaking. Sometimes things happen in our lives, and it's not that we asked for it per se. I sometimes think things happen that the results of or how we interact with it affects us, maybe affects others. Maybe it happens and we're part of a larger thing. I don't know exactly why things will pop up sometimes that don't seem like I directly created this. I certainly wasn't asking for this. But when I look back at what I got from it, without a doubt, it was in line with my life purpose. So what we're trying to manifest on bigger parts, like the relationship thing, there's components to that you may not be thinking about. Like, oh, I want my relationship. Well, that might actually affect your career. Maybe where you're currently working is a problem. Maybe how much you're currently making is a problem. Maybe where you're currently living is not actually going to work for this relationship that you're manifesting. Maybe there is some other thing that you're not looking at because you got blinders on. I only see the relationship. Okay, but if that's going to happen, some other stuff has to fall in line. I got one listener I'm thinking of, or viewer I'm thinking of right now that we've been talking about this back and forth. She probably knows who I'm talking about, but I'm not going to say her name. It's not really cool. But again, we're all kind of working through the bigger picture. So speeding things up a lot of times is opening ourselves up to the fact that our lives are changing through this manifestation process, through this imagining process, through this creative process. Our lives are changing. Grammar, right? Words, pesky words. Don't get hung up on them, right? So our lives are changing, and as they change, it's how quickly can we handle that? That is one of the limiting factors. That's the whole, oh, go faster, but stop, go faster, but stop, go faster, but stop. That's what we typically do. And like I said, I'm looking back on the way things have been for me over the past couple of years, and I've been on a very aggressive growth path, and it has been very stressful. I see it, I understand it, I am aware of it. I try to take care of myself around it, make sure I get enough sleep, make sure I'm eating right, make sure I get to the gym, things that are definitely going to help with what I'm doing to myself, but intentionally so. But again, that's a factor that I want a lot of people to understand. How much can you handle is how fast it'll go. What are you willing to do? How much do you really want to work on yourself? Because most of this is going to fall back on ourselves. For me, it's totally been that. been an issue of me, focusing on trying to create more of what it is that I'm here to do and be and, right? And experience. Like love's part of that. But certainly having a good career, a good place to live, a good job, a good YouTube, you know, like all these things tie in together. And the big picture is starting to evolve for me in a very bitchin' way. So that's the same thing. That's what we're all working on. Manifesting is a process. It's not a, what'd you manifest right this second? Well, I manifested, I don't know, something today. I don't know, you know, some laughter. I don't know. That made me happy. That was good. Some guy kept being funny about my stand-up stuff. It was, all right. I don't know. That was it. I put myself on the spot right there, and that was not a good idea. But needless to say, I did it nonetheless. So hopefully this kind of makes sense. I have no idea what I'm going to title this one, but it's along those lines of how fast can we handle it? Well, a lot of it depends up to us. Change is a part of this, period. How fast do you want it to go? How fast can you handle change? How fast are you willing to work at it? How much effort do you put towards it? And you will be surprised. I mean, you can imagine all you want, but if you got beliefs that are cutting you off, it ain't happening. You can imagine all you want, but if there's things that have to happen and you keep saying, no, I don't want to do that, every time someone's like, you know, you should get another job, you're like, yeah, I'm happy where I'm at. Or then I won't see him anymore, or whatever, right? Then I won't be next door. Those are not reasons to ignore that path. So that path may be holding you back. Maybe you need to consider looking down that different job path because that will actually make it easier for the relationship. Maybe it won't be so weird to do it because, again, the work thing I've talked about before in other shows, it's like it can be a little scary for a guy to date someone at work, for example, just to throw options out there. So, again, going out with a great song by Zed Marin, I think it is. Or no, sorry, Zed and Marin Mortis. And the song is called The Middle. It's right here on Dan Radio Style.